The Congress Party and the National Conference, led by the Abdullahs, has artfully dodged questions. Questions posed to them, seeking accountability from them on the ethnic cleansing that cast a massive shadow over the Kashmir Valley, viewers, in the late 80s and early 90s. Lakhs and lakhs of Kashmiri Hindus had to flee their homes and live lives like displaced refugees in their own land. Justice, of course, has been denied to them for 32 long years, viewers. But the Congress, the National Conference, say that questions seeking accountability for them should not be asked. In fact, they say that they weren't even in power when the exodus began. They say that VP Singh's government, supported by the Bharatiya Janata Party, was at the helm at the center, and the state itself was under central rule under Governor Jagmohan. Today, viewers, we speak to Kerala Governor Arif Muhammad Khan, who was then a cabinet minister in the VP Singh government, to seek his views on the Congress and National Conference's claims, counterclaims. Mr. Arif Muhammad Khan, thank you very much for speaking to Times Now, for speaking to me. We have been waging a campaign to have this government, the NDA government, set up a commission of inquiry to look into the Kashmiri Hindu genocide and exodus. Do you believe there should be a commission of inquiry, sir, set up now?
You know, if in South Africa, they can establish a commission for what was called Commission for Truth. I think it is much better, instead of trying to sweep things under the carpet, it will be much better if we come to know about the facts, what has happened. So I'm not demanding, but I do not find anything wrong if somebody is demanding or such commission is set up. At least we will have an official, authentic narrative of how things developed in Kashmir, which led to the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits from the valley, and they became refugees in their own country.
Well, in 2017, the Supreme Court was asked to go into this issue on the back of a plea, sir, but it said that no commission could be appointed, no probe could be instituted because the matter was time-barred. How do you react to that?
I won't like to react to any opinion of the Supreme Court, but government can always take the decision. It will be for the government to decide finally.
Okay, Mr. Khan, let me get to the brass tacks immediately. The Congress, the National Conference, among others, have tried to deflect blame. They placed the blame at the door of the VP Singh government, which had taken over on 2nd December 1989. You were part of that government, Mr. Khan, as a Minister for Civil Aviation between December 6, 1989 and November 10th, 1990. How would you respond? How would you respond to those who say that the blame lies squarely at the door of the VP Singh government and then Governor of Jammu and Kashmir, Mr. Jagmohan?
Well, I won't try to escape or evade the issue, escape the responsibility. And this is not my new view. I have always said it, that the release of, in order to secure the release of Rubaiya Saeed, daughter of the then Home Minister Mufti Saeed, what we did is certainly not beyond scrutiny. And you have not asked me, although, this question, but I'm admitting I was a member of that team, Mr. I.K. Gujral and me. I was not member of the Cabinet Committee on Security Affairs. Therefore, I was not aware what transpired there. But I was woken up around 1:30 in the night and I was told that this Cabinet Committee on Security Affairs has decided to send a team consisting of Mr. Gujral and me to Srinagar. And I was also told that army has been alerted at Pathankot, and we will have to, people may not be aware, for some time during Indiraji's time, I was involved with Kashmir affairs. And I think I dealt quite strongly with the government officials, particularly police, particularly on an occasion when India's national flag was burnt down, and I was standing there, and then I reached the police headquarters, and the way I had taken them to task, possibly that was in the mind of the people that I was not, I've already told you I was not member of the Cabinet Committee on Security Affairs, but I was asked to go there. And when we reached there, I'm giving you this story. It was sometime about 10, 12 years back. This found a lot of space in the newspapers, because I had said this in an interview, then some other people came, I repeated the same thing. It's almost 15 years that when Mr. Gujral and me, we reached in the wee hours of the morning, we were taken to the residence of the Chief Minister. In Hammam is one room in every house which is normally kept warm. It was very cold those days. We sat there, and Mr. Farooq Abdullah started giving the story, and to be fair to him, he was against the demand of the terrorists to release some of the terrorists who were in police or who were in jail. I immediately said to Mr. Farooq Abdullah, I remember my words, and Mr. Farooq Abdullah in his book, in his autobiography, on page 222, 223 and 224 has mentioned the incident in detail. I told him, Farooq Saab, I will stand by you, I will go to any extent, please do not compromise on this. And Farooq looked at me with surprise. Later I came to know that he looked at me with surprise because from Delhi there was pressure to release the terrorists so that Rubaiyat Saeed's release can be secured. And then after talking to him, Mr. Gujral, after I spoke this, and I was the first to speak, then Mr. Gujral did not say much. But when we came to the guest house, the whole day I was sidelined. I had no clue what is happening then, because Mr. Gujral must have informed Delhi that instead of pursuing the line which Delhi had taken, I have told something different to Mr. Farooq Abdullah. And evening I was informed in the guest house where I was staying after this meeting with Mr. Farooq Abdullah. In the evening I was informed that some terrorists have been released and Rubaiyat Saeed release has also been secured. I was very upset, and when I came back to Delhi, in fact Farooq Abdullah Saab has gone to the extent of saying, which is absolutely true, and that is that in the first meeting of the cabinet, Mr. VP Singh's cabinet, after Rubaiyat Saeed she was kidnapped, I had taken the stand in the meeting of the cabinet. I said, we are not the only country where this thing is happening. There are other countries also where ministers were kidnapped, ministers' relatives were kidnapped. The strategy they adopted was that for some time the minister concerned will resign. I said, someone else will deal with this situation. And so in a way I had requested Mufti to resign and let someone else deal with this situation. But there is another angle also which you should keep in mind. There was one judge from Kashmir. His name, if I remember correctly, was Motilal Bhatt. He had earned the reputation as judge of the Kashmir High Court of giving bail to every terrorist. And the matter was reported to the government. Even at that time, I was in the government during Indiraji's time. And this judge was transferred from Kashmir to Allahabad High Court. He was removed from the scene. And as soon as this, I was not aware at that time, what I am going to tell you now. This judge from Allahabad, he came to Delhi. He was staying at the house of Mufti Muhammad Saeed. In fact, it was he who was negotiating with the terrorists and who was working on the conditions which were put by the terrorists for the release of some of their colleagues. Because this I came to know after we returned from Srinagar, and at the house of Mufti Saeed, we from airport directly we came there, Gujral Saab and me, and there I was introduced to Motilal Bhatt, and later people told me he is the same judge who was giving bail to every terrorist, and because of that he was transferred to Allahabad High Court. And one thing, let me also complete that after Rubaiyah Saeed's this thing, I had demanded that Mufti should resign, and I had given the example of Israel, and I said let someone else deal with this issue.
Were you surprised?
Was using Motilal Bhatt.
Were you surprised, Mr. Khan, that the BJP that supported this government played along? Were you surprised? Shouldn't they have pulled? Should they not have pulled support? They did it over the Mandal issue, but not over this. A subjugation, complete surrender to terror.
No, but let me tell you, everybody was not fully aware of these details. I was in the government. Therefore, even I came to know,
but after these people were released,
sitting at the house.
But after the people were released, why didn't the BJP withdraw support, sir?
So I mean, I can't reply on behalf of any political party, but I can tell you one thing.
Let me come back.
I had told Mr. Farooq Abdullah.
Let me come back, sir. Now, Farooq Abdullah, was playing. Maybe Farooq Abdullah, sir, was playing you. Maybe he was playing you. Maybe he was playing you because he knew that this was an opportunity to get the better of a rival who was also contesting for Chief Minister of the state of Jammu and Kashmir in the form of Mr. Mufti Muhammad Saeed, as you know, because Farooq Abdullah did not tell you that between July and December 1989, he himself had released 70 terrorists. And this has been revealed by SP Ved Saab. 70 terrorists to Farooq Abdullah ne hi release kar diye the.
I was coming... Rahul ji, I was coming to that only when you cut me in between.
Oh, I see.
I was coming to that only, that despite my assurance, I told Mr. Farooq Abdullah that I will go to any extent you stand by this, take this stand that you are not going to release the terror. And I said I will go to any extent. But he compromised immediately.
He compromised?
He agreed. He can't. And I am telling you something. Naturally, when he released the terrorists, then he compromised. And then we, as I told you earlier, even I was not aware of everything. Then I also came to know how he had released many terrorists earlier. But in this case, this case was slightly different. This case, if you allow me, this case was little serious. I have so many friends in Kashmir who were with me in the university. Each one of them, their fathers, their elders during the day, because after that meeting with Farooq Abdullah Saab, I was sidelined. I was not in the picture. So I kept meeting my friends. I went to their house. I had lunch there. So everybody told me, and this was later confirmed by Musa Raza, who was Chief Secretary. What I was told, everybody told me, Arif Sahab, Kashmir will never accept that a girl should be mishandled, manhandled. Please do not come under the pressure of these terrorists.
Right.
If they manhandle her, then they will find no space in the valley. So this case was slightly different.
Yes.
Here, we could have shown more guts.
Yes, much
and
more.
And stood by that.
Much more
Delhi
guts.
came to know.
So let me ask you, sir, what do you make? What do you make of this constant?
Moment Delhi came to...
I understand.
Yes.
So what do you make of this constant? Now you say that Farooq Abdullah also did a U-turn and went ahead and sanctioned the release of the terrorists in exchange for the hostage. But I want to ask you now, Mr. Khan, because every time you ask Farooq Abdullah, every time you ask Junior Abdullah, every time you ask the Congress party, they say ask VP Singh. Now VP Singh is not here to clear his name. You ask Atal Bihari Vajpayee, you ask the BJP. How do you respond to that?
I would like to respond. I think I am ready to concede there was pressure from Delhi on him. But if he wanted to take a stand, as he has written in his book himself,
yes.
He says Arif Muhammad Khan was the only one who was totally against releasing the terrorists. And I was telling him, without saying so, but I was giving him message, I will go to any length with you if you refuse to release the terrorists.
If you took such a hard stand, Arif Saab, if you took such a hard stand, I have to ask you this question because, you know, it's hurting me. It's hurting me. A lot of our own stories are wrapped up in what happened. I want to ask you, Mr. Khan, if you took such an uncompromising position on terror, do you believe it was morally right for then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh to shake hands with Yasin Malik in 2006? For a working committee, working group set up under him, headed by Hamid Ansari, to call for unconditional dialogue with all terrorists. Do you think this was right?
I think I have already written about this in one of my articles. Basically, the softness which we have shown, that created doubts even in the minds of those who were staunchly for India. It was the kind of stance which you have mentioned, which made pro-Indian elements nervous in the valley. And they thought, and I am not saying it to you for the first time, in 2011 or 12, in India Today's conclave, I made the same point, and 15 days later, I was invited by the Vivekananda International Foundation to speak on this issue because they told me that India Today conclave, you had only 15 minutes, here you can speak for an hour. And there I mentioned how VP Singh showed weakness, how PV Narasimha Rao said that as far as autonomy is concerned, sky is the limit, how Manmohan Singh dealt with kid gloves with the, rather in a friendly manner with the terrorists. Not only that, if you recall, one photo is still alive in my memory. The Home Secretary of the Government of India in Chashme, he was camping in Chashme Shahi, the guest house, and a terrorist, I don't remember his name now, who had owned responsibility for killing number of people. He came to the guest house to meet the Home Secretary and he was wearing a veil on his face. And that photo was splashed prominently in the newspapers. I don't remember the year, but I felt so bad that day that if we are ready to meet these criminals in this manner, then what kind of message are we giving to the people in Srinagar?
This is a very powerful message coming from Governor Sahab. Now, Governor Sahab, I want to ask you this because this is very important. There is so much obvious fervor that has been evoked by this movie Kashmir Files. Now, Governor Saab, many people are saying that this is an instrumentality in the hands of the NDA government to pit Muslims and Hindus against each other, to reopen wounds, to communalize the entire atmosphere. And at the end of the day, this is a rampant example of the Islamophobia that girds the entire NDA. How do you react to this?
You know, I do not attach much importance to these things, because if you want to present the alternative version, bring it. Nobody is stopping anybody else. And secondly,
Yes.
This whole thing, imagine you become refugee in your own country. I also know, and I have spoken about it several times, that there are Muslim families also. So they told me that first they will come and ask for money, then they will come and ask for food, and few later they would come and they would demand from us that we should marry one of the daughter to one of the terrorists. So they had no option but to leave the place. But even these people, the Muslims, who were forced to leave, they were leave essentially because the main target were the Kashmiri Pandits. Anybody showing sympathy for them or not helping to strengthen the cause to throw out the Kashmiri Pandits. If they were Muslims, they also suffered. There is absolutely no doubt about it. And Pakistan also, remember that Pakistan ensured,
yes,
they ensured that there is no one organization.
Yeah.
Therefore, they officially engineered a split even in the Hurriyat. Why they did it? So that they can, if any leader tried to go out of their control, they use the other group to kill him. So there is no doubt that Muslims were also killed. But basically the target were the Kashmiri Pandits. And I am not saying so. Look at my articles which have been published more than 12, 13 years back. I have said the same thing in those articles. They are part of my book which is available in the market.
Yes, yes. Last question to you, Governor Saab, last question to you. Do you think the Modi government can ignore calls now for an inquiry, for a commission,
yes,
for a probe?
I can't speak on behalf of the government, but problem with many people today is that we have for the first time a prime minister who refuses to budge under any kind of pressure, who refuses to accommodate any separatist or divisive demand. That is the whole problem. That is why the hearts have become full of hatred. Can you ever imagine people who claim to be progressive and liberal? The hatred is so much that they are going out of their way even to support triple divorce, even to support hijab. So one thing I am confident about, that we have today a prime minister, and this also I can say that this possibly is for the first time that everybody knows that you can't pressurize him.
So I'm going to again ask you, fine, you can't pressurize him, but should a probe now be instituted by his government? In principle. It's a question that I'm asking you as Arif Muhammad Khan, a scholar and an intellectual, not as governor. Not as governor, as a scholar and intellectual.
My heart goes out to the Kashmiri Pandits. I think we should do whatever is possible, which we have not done. I must also say, which we have not done. There cannot be greater insult and greater humiliation than becoming refugee in your own country.
Yeah.
So we must do whatever is possible, but it is for the government to take the call. It is not for me to suggest what they should do.
Thank you. Arif Muhammad Khan, thank you very much. You've spoken very candidly. You've addressed every issue. You have given us new facts never previously brought out. Thank you very much for being candid. Thank you very much for being honorable. Thank you.